Luo Feng confidently declares that he will handle the scouting task, relying on 1/10 of a world lifeform's energy reserve, which allows him to divide into multiple avatars for wide-area exploration. Wuxia God King uses an escape technique to lead the team rapidly through the dream domain. A vast and complex structure made up of countless bubble-like independent spaces, each containing different rules, ecosystems, creatures, and hidden treasures. Emperor Gui Shu explains the hierarchical structure of the dream domain. It is divided into outer, middle, deep, and dark regions, with each deeper layer demanding a higher level of spiritual will to withstand its mental corruption. The outer layer can be endured by first-realm godly kings with clear consciousness. The middle layer requires at least second-realm godly king level will. The deep layer demands ultimate realm god king level will to remain stable. While the dark region can only be explored by beings whose spiritual will surpasses the godly king level. A rarity across the entire land of origin. Because of this extreme risk, the group decides to primarily operate in the middle layer. All 4 members possess ultimate realm godly king level spiritual will, though Wuxia God King and Emperor Gui Shu caution that their primordial bloodline still requires constant suppression, especially if they venture too deep, where mental instability could lead to loss of control. Cloud Sky God King is highlighted as an unusual case, although she is only at the first realm godly king level in terms of cultivation. Her spiritual will has already reached the ultimate realm after a catastrophic incident caused by excessive excavation of her primordial bloodline, which once led to complete loss of control and a major disaster. Only through repeated torment and recovery did her will eventually stabilize and transform, allowing her to qualify for elite organizations like the Reincarnation Tower. The group soon enters the middle layer of the dream domain, which appears as a vast dark forest-like world filled with dense vegetation and dim, oppressive light, where the dream domain's invisible spiritual force continuously seeps into the mind, subtly influencing perception and weakening clarity. Luo Feng perceives this pressure not as a threat but as an opportunity, using it to refine his great destruction heart refining technique. As the constant mental suppression significantly enhances cultivation efficiency, he deploys 9 avatars across different directions, each carefully concealing its presence to the level of ordinary rocks or vegetation. While conducting systematic reconnaissance of terrain, energy fluctuations, and creature activity, the dream domain is known to contain tens of thousands of such middle-layer spaces, all unstable and constantly shifting over eras, meaning that geography and treasure locations change completely over time, rendering all historical maps and intelligence nearly useless, forcing every exploration team to rely entirely on real-time scouting. Within these spaces, dream domain creatures vary greatly in strength. Most lack intelligence and operate purely on instinct, ranging from ordinary godly kings to occasionally ultimate realm level beings, though their combat techniques are crude but overwhelming in raw power due to their spatial affinity. During exploration, one of Luo Feng's avatars discovers a fiery red tree bearing a single luminous fruit that emits dazzling light and a strange laughter-like resonance that directly affects spiritual perception, creating a strong attraction far exceeding that of known treasures like the primordial crystal spirit fruit. As the avatar carefully approaches, scanning for hidden threats and suppressing its aura, an unimaginable presence suddenly awakens. A colossal, blurred giant eye and an indistinct head emerge in the distant sky, far larger than any known creature. And without warning, a terrifying invisible force descends, crushing the avatar instantly with absolute dominance. However, due to the world lifeform's nature, the avatar reforms almost immediately, its life essence continuously reconstructed from void energy. The giant eye appears briefly confused, then resumes attacking, releasing a massive palm-like force that repeatedly slams down like the heavens collapsing. Each strike annihilates the avatar, yet it regenerates each time, and this cycle repeats 7 times as Luo Feng desperately attempts to retreat. Eventually, once the avatar escapes beyond the creature's restricted spatial boundary, the attacks cease, as the entity cannot leave its own domain and loses interest. Luo Feng realizes these dream domain beings are bound to their individual spaces but possess absurdly high power levels, far exceeding expectations for the middle layer, making them extremely dangerous despite their confinement. He also encounters other hazards during scouting, including groups of stone monsters at second realm godly king level that pursue his avatars relentlessly. forcing constant evasive maneuvers, and predatory beasts that swallow an avatar whole, requiring Luo Feng to use Chaos Hole 6 strikes inside the creature's body to force it to expel him before escaping. Through repeated trials and losses, he gradually understands that scouting the dream domain is far more dangerous and exhausting than expected, even for someone with multiple avatars and high survivability. Eventually, one of his avatars locates a treasure site guarded by 9 dream domain creatures, including 3 at second realm godly king level and 6 weaker ones. Their ore is clearly exposed due to their lack of concealment ability, and he immediately reports this to the team. Wuxia God King, Emperor Gui Shu, and Cloud Sky God King all become interested, and Wuxia God King urges immediate action, praising Luo Feng's scouting efficiency, after which the group sets out with Luo Feng leading the navigation. At the same time, elsewhere in the middle layer, another expedition team led by the Palace Master of the Two Realms Palace is conducting systematic exploration, despite being suppressed by supreme rules to Chaos Realm level power. He retains extremely high-level insight and experience, allowing him to map dangerous zones accurately. He identifies multiple regions containing ultimate realm-level dream domain creatures and other high-risk areas, marking them carefully on a constructed map while ordering his subordinate Ju Yu to deploy shadow-like avatars for reconnaissance. This group, equipped with secret treasures and knowledge from beyond the land of origin, moves cautiously but efficiently, avoiding direct confrontation while steadily expanding their exploration coverage within the unstable dream domain environment. Luo Feng led Wuxia God King, Emperor Gui Shu, and Cloud Sky God King through the dream realm using the hidden sky tunneling technique, quickly locating a major treasure site containing 7 purple heart realm flowers, each worth around 3 million merit points and highly beneficial to cultivators in the braided cage. Around these flowers stood 9 seemingly ordinary trees, but Luo Feng immediately identified them as hidden plant-type dream realm lifeforms guarding the treasure. As the group approached, the dream realm's unique operational laws activated, forcibly disrupting their concealment techniques and revealing their positions, proving that stealth methods are ineffective when nearing core treasures. The 9 tree lifeforms immediately launched an attack, extending massive branches like giant hands and sending roots surging from the ground to entangle the group. Luo Feng also sensed that the dream realm's rules were fundamentally different from the supreme rules of the land of origin, less perfect but still extremely high level, and especially designed to enforce visibility around treasures. At this moment, Cloud Sky God King released a terrifying invisible and colorless poison derived from her primordial bloodline, which not only corroded physical bodies but also directly destroyed souls, causing even powerful God King level entities in the Reincarnation Tower and Thunder God Country to die instantly without chance of reincarnation. Under this poison, the 9 tree lifeforms rapidly deteriorated. The weaker 6 were almost immediately riddled with holes and weakened to the point of collapse, while the 3 stronger ones also suffered severe power loss. Luo Feng was deeply shocked by its destructive nature and realized why even peak factions feared Cloud Sky God King's abilities. Taking advantage of the weakening enemies, Emperor Gui Shu unleashed his full combat style, revealing 8 arms each wielding different weapons and elemental powers such as thunder, fire, blood, light, and water, coordinating them into devastating multi-directional attacks capable of overwhelming even second realm god kings. At the same time, Wuxia God King executed extremely precise sword techniques, striking 6 times to instantly eliminate the already weakened 6 tree lifeforms. Luo Feng himself did not participate in killing but focused on protecting the treasure using world power and preparing to intercept any spillover damage. After the battle, he assessed that while his own strength could match individual plant lifeforms in prolonged combat, he lacked the killing efficiency of Emperor Gui Shu and Wuxia God King, especially in coordinated team combat. With the Guardians eliminated, Wuxia God King collected all 7 Purple Heart Realm flowers as previously agreed, and the team's loot distribution was confirmed. Emperor Gui Shu and Wuxia God King each received 35%, Luo Feng 20% for navigation and scouting, and Cloud Sky God King 10%, reflecting the importance of his reconnaissance role. The group continued deeper into the dream realm, with Luo Feng's 9 avatars constantly scouting ahead, allowing them to discover new treasures every 1 or 2 days. steadily accumulating enormous merit points that far exceeded his earnings as a guest elder in Flame-Wind Ancient Country. Although the gains were immense, potentially reaching hundreds of millions of merit points across planned exploration zones, the danger was equally extreme, as death of the true body in the dream realm would result in severe loss. Something even Emperor Gui Shu and Cloud Sky God Cain had experienced multiple times in past expeditions, relying on preserved primordial bloodline fragments to recover. During this time, Luo Feng estimated that his share alone had already exceeded tens of millions of merit points and that the group planned to explore 5 interconnected dream realm spaces, each more dangerous than the last due to stronger guardians and rival cultivator interference. Meanwhile, within the Two Realms Palace team, the white-haired palace master detected Luo Feng's group using a secret technique and immediately recognized Emperor Gui Shu, confirming they were from the Reincarnation Tower, an old rival faction with repeated conflicts over treasure sites. Harboring deep hostility, he ordered a counter-strategy: capture a dream realm creature to lure an entire tribe into attacking Luo Feng's group first, using them as a weakening force before the Two Realms Palace made their final move. Eventually, Luo Feng and his companions rested near a lake while continuing treasure detection through Luo Feng's distributed avatars. As they prepared to transition to another zone, a winged woman from the Two Realms Palace suddenly emerged from the void holding a stone monster and declared she was bringing a gift. But she was instantly annihilated by an invisible rule-like force upon entering the treasure vicinity. This triggered a catastrophic reaction as space distorted and countless stone monsters began emerging, quickly forming a massive swarm of hundreds, all exuding overwhelming hostility and blood-red killing intent. The creatures stood suspended in the air, many shedding tears yet radiating fury, as if driven by the dream realm's own protective instincts toward the treasure site. In the distance, the white-haired palace master and the Two Realms Palace team observed everything using a secret technique, confirming that their plan to use dream realm creatures as the first wave of assault had successfully activated, setting the stage for a large-scale ambush against Luo Feng's group. Emperor Gui Shu, Wuxia God Cain, and Cloud Sky God Cain instantly changed expression as they realized they had encountered one of the most dangerous formations in the dream domain, a massive dream realm creature group capable of merging their wills and powers into a single coordinated system. Around the hundreds of stone monsters at the core, the surrounding world rapidly turned blood-red as the rules of the dream domain were forcibly altered, forming a terrifying rule-based suppression field that acted like an invisible sealing domain, continuously compressing and binding Luo Feng's entire team from all directions. This was not a conventional force but a direct manipulation of the domain's laws, meaning even raw power could not be neutralized. All techniques were forcibly weakened or rendered ineffective. Escape abilities from Emperor Gui Shu, Wuxia God King's hidden sky tunneling technique, Cloud Sky God King's poison fog, and other concealment or traversal methods were all simultaneously suppressed. As if the dream domain itself rejected any attempt to leave, the stone monsters then launched a coordinated assault, with their roar shaking heaven and earth as the entire group moved as one entity. Emperor Gui Shu immediately clashed with the stone monster leader using his 8 arms and multiple weapons, applying complex transformation and deflection techniques. But despite his refined combat skill, he was still blasted backward while the stone monster leader only staggered slightly, revealing that its raw strength was at least comparable to his own. He quickly warned not to engage head-on. Meanwhile, Wuxia God King unleashed a vast sword array, splitting his sword into countless dense shadows that swept across the battlefield, testing the enemy structure. However, while the attacks could slightly injure weaker stone monsters, the larger ones remained almost unharmed, revealing their terrifying physical resilience. Through this probing, he confirmed the structure of the enemy force. The leader was at peak Second Realm God King level. There were nearly 100 Second Realm level stone monsters, and over 200 First Realm level ones, all possessing extremely durable bodies that made them difficult to kill. At the same time, observers from the Two Realms Palace were watching from afar using secret techniques, observing the battlefield projection with satisfaction and analyzing that the Dream Realm creature group's combined rule field had completely suppressed the Reincarnation Tower team's ability to escape, making it nearly certain they would suffer catastrophic losses, even commenting that at most one of the 4 might survive and that they could later collect dropped treasures. Back in the battlefield, Emperor Guizhou urgently concluded they must find weaknesses in the formation quickly and break out. Otherwise they would be trapped permanently. While Cloud Sky God King admitted that except for Wuxia God King, none of them likely had escape capability under this suppression. Wuxia God King then attempted a deeper probe, transforming into flowing light to extend across the battlefield. But the stone monster leader let out a devastating roar that directly shattered the domain flow, forcing him back into his true form and causing even Cloud Sky God King's primordial body to crack under pressure. While Luo Feng's world life form also felt significant strain. Realizing the situation was deteriorating, Luo Feng suddenly declared he would try and immediately acted, to everyone's shock. He unleashed over 300 avatars simultaneously, each taking the form of black-scaled, golden-horned bodies, carefully avoiding the 4 strongest stone monsters, including the leader comparable to Emperor Guizhou and 3 others comparable to Tian Kun Emperor-level combatants, and instead directly engaging the remaining stone monster forces. Each avatar carried only a fraction of his world lifeform energy reserve, yet still retained First Realm God King level combat strength due to his refined control and technique efficiency. While the 89 Second Realm stone monsters were individually matched with stronger avatars enhanced by his mastery of the 6 branches of the Great Tao of Destruction origin, allowing him to counter their resilience with superior combat structure. In total, more than 300 stone monsters were simultaneously locked in combat with more than 300 Luo Feng avatars, forming an unprecedented battlefield equilibrium where both sides' bodies were nearly indestructible, resulting in a massive attrition stalemate rather than immediate destruction. Even the Second Realm stone monsters were firmly restrained, and although Luo Feng's mental burden was enormous, his spiritual will pushed to its absolute God King limit, he still maintained full control over all avatars simultaneously. This sudden reversal stunned Emperor Guizhou, Wuxia God King, and Cloud Sky God King, who could not comprehend how a First Realm God King could simultaneously sustain hundreds of high-level combat avatars with such stability. While even the stone monster leader and the 3 strongest stone monsters were momentarily frozen in disbelief that their army had been individually pinned, observers from the 2 realms' palace were equally shocked, openly questioning whether Luo Feng's spiritual will had surpassed God King limits or whether he possessed some unknown soul or origin secret, as even their most experienced palace masters could not explain such control capacity. The white-haired palace master in particular memorized Luo Feng's black-scaled, golden-horned form, recognizing him as an unpredictable variable. Seizing the moment of chaos, Luo Feng urgently transmitted that his avatars were only stalling the enemy and could not sustain for long, instructing Guizhou and Wuxia God King to immediately break through and eliminate the remaining stone monsters one by one while they were restrained, as continuing to maintain hundreds of avatars was already pushing his mental endurance to its absolute limit. Wuxia God King instantly escalated his combat power to its peak state, his divine sword separating into 12 independent blades that arranged themselves into a highly precise and multi-layered sword array, simultaneously locking onto the stone monster leader and 3 other elite stone monsters, forcing them into parallel suppression zones where their movement and counterattacks were all restricted at once. At the same time, Emperor Guizhou fully synchronized with him, erupting without any reservation and pushing his primordial bloodline to its absolute limit, causing crimson flames to surge wildly across his body and the surrounding space while simultaneously inflicting severe backlash on his own physical structure due to the overload of power. Even so, he immediately activated one of his 2 ultimate techniques, Heaven and Earth Great Destruction, entering a state where his 8 arms each wielded a different divine weapon, allowing him to execute simultaneous multi-directional strikes that twisted spatial laws and shattered the stability of the battlefield. His first decisive strike came down with a massive war hammer that directly cracked open the body of a gigantic stone monster, while the follow-up attack used a black battle axe that cleanly severed it into 2 halves. And after more than 10 consecutive explosive impacts that ignored its extreme physical resilience, comparable to the Emperor of Tian Kun's primordial bloodline, the creature was completely obliterated and transformed into scattered chaotic energy fragments. Wuxia God King, observing this result, immediately adjusted battlefield roles with surgical precision, instructing Emperor Gui Shu to focus entirely on rapidly eliminating the weaker stone monsters while he himself took over the suppression of the stone monster leader and 2 remaining elite stone monsters. Using his sword array as a sealed domain that functioned like an inescapable cage, preventing any breakthrough despite their furious roars and full power counterattacks. Meanwhile, Luo Feng's hundreds of avatars were deployed across a vast battlefield grid, each one independently restraining portions of over 300 stone monsters, not necessarily killing them but effectively disrupting their coordination, severing formation linkage, and preventing them from forming collective offensive patterns. With the battlefield fully segmented, Emperor Gui Shu began a systematic slaughter of the weaker enemies, his strikes varying according to target durability, requiring 3 to 4 heavy blows for stronger stone monsters while weaker ones were instantly crushed with a single hammer strike, resulting in the rapid destruction of more than 10 stone monsters in a very short time, which in turn triggered a chain reaction of rage and instinctive fear across the remaining horde. The stone monster leader then issued a unified convergence command, causing all scattered stone monsters to abandon dispersal tactics and instead rapidly converge toward a central node, sacrificing their previous encirclement advantage in exchange for structural fusion capability. And even the leader along with its 2 elite subordinates joined this merging process, resulting in a colossal composite stone monster whose size and raw power increased dramatically but whose structural coordination became significantly slower and less refined. Wuxia God King immediately assessed the change and concluded that while the fused entity had greater destructive force, its agility and adaptability had sharply declined, making it unsuitable for pursuit against a high-mobility God King team. So he decisively ordered retreat rather than prolonged engagement. Under the activation of Wuxia God King's ultimate realm escape technique, the entire team's movement efficiency and spatial traversal speed increased dramatically, allowing them to disengage at a level far beyond the reaction capacity of the newly formed giant stone monster, which attempted pursuit but rapidly lost spatial lock and was completely outpaced after only a short distance, eventually being left behind roaring in frustration as the group exited the Dream Realm creature domain entirely. From a distant observational layer, members of the Two Realms Palace carefully monitored the battle outcome and analyzed the Reincarnation Tower team's performance, particularly noting Luo Feng's extraordinary capability to simultaneously operate hundreds of avatars in a coordinated restraint network that successfully bound nearly 90 second-realm Dream Realm creatures. Though they also concluded that such a method relied heavily on the low intelligence and primitive coordination of Dream Realm entities and would be far less effective against true God Kings with refined techniques and layered Dao systems, leading them to suspect that Luo Feng was not a simple newcomer but likely an experienced peak second realm existence deliberately concealing his identity. After both sides withdrew, the Two Realms Palace team also determined that the current Dream Realm space had been sufficiently harvested and that remaining resources were no longer worth the risk of further engagement, prompting them to shift toward other exploration zones. Following the battle, Emperor Gui Shu, Wuxia God King, and Cloud Sky God King conducted a recalibration of resource distribution, explicitly acknowledging Luo Feng's decisive contributions in reconnaissance, battlefield control through avatar suppression, and indirect stabilization of combat flow, and therefore adjusted the original allocation scheme so that both Emperor Gui Shu and Wuxia God King each ceded a portion of their share to Luo Feng, resulting in a near-even distribution of roughly 30% per major contributor. While Cloud Sky God King retained her original portion but recognized that overall gains had increased due to the enhanced efficiency of the team's synergy. The group also discussed ongoing external pressure, with Emperor Gui Shu mentioning repeated interference patterns from Two Realms Palace and the presence of an unidentified winged female observer whose identity remained unclear. While Wuxia God King admitted that despite his high-level tracking expertise he was unable to trace their spatial signatures due to exceptional concealment techniques employed by the opposing side, highlighting the gap between top-tier concealment and standard pursuit methods among Second Realm experts. Ultimately, they concluded that further operations in this Dream Realm space would produce diminishing returns relative to risk exposure, and therefore decided to relocate to alternative exploration zones in a separate region, within a relatively quiet mountain forest-type Dream Realm space. Luo Feng maintained a detached world life form avatar containing approximately 1,000th of his total energy reserves, which continuously absorbed ambient energy and stabilized itself within an already partially explored environment. While the main consciousness simultaneously engaged in cultivation practice by activating the Great Destruction heart refining technique, which manifested as a dark chaotic hole-like spiritual annihilation field that continuously compressed, crushed, and erased impurities within his spiritual will, while at the same time allowing dream realm illusions to infiltrate his consciousness and generate chaotic stray thoughts, all of which were repeatedly destabilized and destroyed by the refining process, resulting in progressive purification and strengthening of his spiritual foundation. And he maintained full awareness that spiritual cultivation is inherently cyclical, as new distracting thoughts inevitably emerge over time and stagnation leads to regression or even loss of control, while simultaneously sustaining parallel operations where his remaining avatars continued accompanying the Reincarnation Tower team across other dream realm spaces for ongoing exploration and resource acquisition. In the central space of the dream realm, Luo Feng's team continued their joint treasure hunting expedition, where although they occasionally encountered extremely terrifying dream realm creatures that even Luo Feng's perception could not immediately detect, their combined strength allowed them to react in time and handle most dangers without collapse. The team was composed of Emperor Gui Shu, Wuxia God King, Cloud Sky God King, and Luo Feng, forming a highly efficient combat configuration in which Emperor Gui Shu provided overwhelming frontal suppression. Wuxia God King contributed vast and versatile secret techniques along with exceptional escape capabilities. And Luo Feng, through his numerous avatars, excelled at infiltration, scouting, distraction, and restraining enemy forces, thereby significantly increasing the team's overall survivability and operational range. As they temporarily rested by a stream, drinking and waiting for Luo Feng's avatars to return with scouting results, they suddenly detected a distant fleeing group of 9 cultivators, led by a cloaked figure with 3 faces, each face continuously scanning the surroundings with extreme vigilance, instantly causing Emperor Gui Shu, Wuxia God King, and Cloud Sky God King to tense up and lose their relaxed demeanor. Immediately recognizing them as the Wanfa Tower's team, one of the most dangerous forces in the Dream Realm exploration zones, Luo Feng also observed the cloaked leader and, based on prior intelligence, identified him as likely being the Wanfa Tower Master, a supreme figure known for mastering countless techniques and integrating them into team-wide amplification systems, making Wanfa Tower teams uniquely dangerous not because of individual combat power alone, but because of their near-perfect tactical synergy and adaptability under suppression from the supreme rules. Emperor Gui Shu immediately transmitted a warning that Wanfa Tower teams represented the most difficult opponents to face head-on in Treasure Realms and urged immediate withdrawal from the current Dream Realm space, a view strongly supported by Wuxia God King, who also felt unease and insisted on leaving as quickly as possible. Luo Feng internally assessed that even peak Second Realm God Kings like Gui Shu and Wuxia displayed caution and apprehension merely from the presence of Wanfa Tower, highlighting its terrifying reputation. Meanwhile, the Wanfa Tower Master also noticed Luo Feng's group from afar, carefully analyzing their composition, especially noting Luo Feng's black scales and golden horns as a new variable, and immediately issuing a secret order to his subordinates to mark and pursue them later if an opportunity arose. Relying on Wanfa Tower's specialization in long-term coordinated pursuit and tracking, however, before any engagement could develop, Luo Feng's team decisively retreated and exited the Dream Realm space entirely, preventing any further locking or pursuit, after which the Wanfa Tower Master could only comment that they were overly cautious. Once safely outside that space, Wuxia God King admitted that whenever he encountered the Wanfa Tower Master, he felt as though all his techniques and weaknesses were exposed, while Emperor Gui Shu revealed that he had previously been killed 3 separate times by Wanfa Tower teams due to their terrifying predictive coordination, where their combat style seemed to anticipate every countermeasure and dismantle resistance systematically. Wuxia God King then explained his boundary-breaking escape technique, an extremely high-level spatial escape method capable of instantaneous traversal across the land of origin and even theoretically reaching other source worlds. Although in practice it required precise coordinates, otherwise, venturing beyond the braided cage world would result in disorientation or death due to the instability of primordial space. He further explained that beyond the cage world, lay the vast primordial space filled with overwhelming primordial force, which would rapidly erode any non-primordial life form, reinforcing the idea that cultivators like them were still confined within a cosmic cage. After assessing their recent encounters, including interference from Two Realms Palace and the presence of Wanfa Tower, the group agreed they had already explored 5 dream realm spaces and that continuing further would bring excessive risk, especially given the escalating threats, leading Wuxia God King and Emperor Gui Shu to propose withdrawal, a decision Luo Feng and Cloud Sky God King agreed with. They then safely retreated under Wuxia God King's hidden heaven escape technique, carefully bypassing the dream realm entrance guarded by the 2 ancient countries, and returned directly to Huangyao Mountain, where the group finally relaxed completely after the tension of potential pursuit. Emperor Gui Shu declared the expedition a success, emphasizing that despite external interference and high-risk encounters, Luo Feng's contributions, particularly his avatar-based battlefield control, had greatly reduced overall danger and increased their efficiency. After which Wuxia God King proceeded to distribute the spoils of war, totaling approximately 280 million merit points, allocating 28 million to Cloud Sky God King and 84 million each to himself, Emperor Gui Shu, and Luo Feng, a distribution that reflected Luo Feng's recognized combat contribution on par with peak God Kings. Luo Feng was satisfied with the gain, as such wealth represented an enormous fortune even for God Kings and exceeded what many strong cultivators could accumulate over long periods of time. Following this, Wuxia God King inquired about detailed information regarding Dream Domain treasures and specifically asked whether anyone possessed the rare 5-colored treasure medicine, a highly valuable substance refined from the heart of a sector beast beyond the God King level and sold exclusively by the 2 ancient countries, capable of significantly enhancing comprehension of the great Tao of destruction origin. Though it was extremely expensive at 10 million merit points per dose and rarely retained by cultivators due to immediate consumption, none of the group possessed it, and Wuxia God King suggested Luo Feng consult his master Emperor Chu for access. Finally, after concluding all discussions and confirming the end of the mission, the 4 agreed to disband temporarily and regroup for future operations, each departing Huangyao Mountain and returning to their respective locations after a successful but high-risk expedition.